Hey everyone, welcome back to part 2 of traffic expressions. In part 1, we covered a lot of expressions we use when we drive or when we're the passenger of a vehicle. In part 2, we're going to continue the story and scenario and go over additional expressions we use when we drive or when we're the passenger of a vehicle. So let's continue, shall we? It was rush hour and my husband and I were going to pick up my friend Jane from the airport. We were late and according to Google Maps, had to make a left turn on Washington Avenue to get to the airport faster. Finally, we arrived at the airport and Jane was waiting outside. When he tried to pull over, he noticed a lot of double parking on the road. So he carefully pulled into the pickup zone and Jane got into the car. She buckled up and we started driving back. However, we hit another traffic jam on the way back, causing a delay. We were stuck in traffic for so long and my husband started getting mad because of the traffic and other bad drivers. I wish my husband was calmer when he drives, as he has a lot of road rage. Suddenly, my friend realized that we had missed our turn and we had to make a U-turn to get back on the right track. We arrived at our destination and we pulled over to let my friend off. She thanked me for the ride and got out of the car. It was rush hour and my husband and I were going to pick up my friend Jane from the airport. As covered in part 1, rush hour is the period of time right when work is over and everyone is trying to leave work to go home. Because of this, there's typically a lot of traffic on the roads as people in cars, trains, buses are all trying to get home. Pick up. When you pick someone up, it means you go and get that person, typically in a car. And when you pick something up, you physically go to a location to obtain it and then you return with it. So for instance, you may say, "Hey Don, I'll pick you up on the way to work tomorrow morning." So this means that while driving to work tomorrow, I will stop by Don's house and give him a ride to work. Or in another scenario, you might say to your brother, "Hey, I'll pick up some pizza for dinner tonight," meaning that you will place an order for the pizza over the phone or online, go to the pizza place, and then bring it back home for dinner. So in this sentence, the situation is that there is a lot of traffic as everyone is going home from work, and my husband and I were going to get my friend Jane from the airport. We were late and according to Google Maps, had to make a left turn on Washington Avenue to get to the airport faster. When you make a turn, that simply means to turn. So for instance, if you make a left turn on Anderson Avenue, that means to turn left on Anderson Avenue. A lot of times, we also use the make a turn expression when we give directions to someone. You may tell your taxi driver, "Make a right on Forest Street." You can also use the following variations: make a left turn, turn left, or make a left. All three of these phrases are commonly used to indicate turning left while driving. So in this sentence, we're saying we were running late and Google Maps showed us that turning left would be a quicker route to the airport. Finally, we arrived at the airport and Jane was waiting outside. When my husband tried to pull over, he noticed a lot of double parking on the road. So double parking is a common word we use when we describe cars that park on streets right next to legally parked cars. If you can imagine, picture two cars parked right next to each other on a street, side by side. You see this a lot on busy streets and especially at airport pickup locations. So here's some examples. Double parking is prohibited on the street and may result in a fine. There were no parking spots on the street, so I had to briefly double park to pick up my order from the restaurant. The delivery truck was double parked outside the store, blocking traffic and causing delays for everyone. In this sentence, when my husband tried to stop on the side of the road, he noticed a lot of cars that were parked right next to each other, side by side. So he carefully pulled into the pickup zone and Jane got into the car. She buckled up and we started driving back. Pull over and pull into. So in case you may have missed this, we covered this expression in part 1 of driving. Buckle up is a common phrase meaning to put on your seatbelt. You may also simply say, put on your seatbelt or fasten your seatbelt. So here, Jane put on her seatbelt and we started driving back. However, we hit another traffic jam on the way back, causing a delay. Traffic jam is another expression we use to describe traffic, which we discussed just above, Traffic jam is another way to say a lot of traffic, which means that there are a lot of cars congesting the road. Many times there is a traffic jam when there is a car accident or when it's rush hour, which is a time period right around when everyone finishes work and all try to drive back home. So here's some examples. I got stuck in a traffic jam on the highway and ended up arriving an hour late. During rush hour, there is always a lot of traffic and it's common to encounter a traffic jam. So in this sense, I'm saying that we came to a big congestion of cars on the way back, causing a delay. We were stuck in traffic for so long and my husband started getting mad because of the traffic and other bad drivers. So when you're stuck in traffic, this means that because of the bad traffic, the cars are moving very, very slowly, or sometimes the cars don't move at all. So here's some more examples. To avoid getting stuck in traffic, many people choose to use public transportation instead of driving. For instance, subways or trains. I missed my flight because I was stuck in traffic on the way to the airport. So here, we're saying that the cars were moving so slowly and that my husband started to get upset because of this and the other bad drivers. I wish my husband was calmer when he drives, as he has a lot of road rage. So road rage is a common expression we use to describe when someone gets angry when they drive. Perhaps it's because there's a lot of traffic or because other people are not good drivers. So we may say, for instance, Bob is a good driver, but he has a lot of road rage when he drives. The driver behind me had terrible road rage and started honking and tailgating me. So in this sense, we're saying that I wish my husband was calmer when he drives because he gets angry a lot when driving. Suddenly, my friend realized that we had missed our turn and we had to make a U-turn to get back on the right track. Make a U-turn is a driving instruction that means to make a 180-degree turn and proceed in the opposite direction. It's typically used when a driver has missed a turn or needs to change their route. The driver would turn their vehicle sharply to the left or right and continue until they have made a complete turn and are facing the opposite direction. So you essentially turn around the car and drive back towards where you came from. And if you can imagine, picture the letter U upside down. So here's some examples. The road was closed ahead, so I had to make a U-turn and take a different route. The driver in front of me suddenly realized they were going the wrong way and made a U-turn in the middle of the road. So here we're saying that we missed our turn and had to turn around to go back in the opposite direction to get back on the correct route. We arrived at our destination and we pulled over to let my friend off. She thanked me for the ride and got out of the car. When you let someone off, that means you stop the car on the side of the road and let the person exit the vehicle. So for instance, you may be riding a taxi and instead of having the driver drive all the way up to the front of your house, you may decide to get off a little earlier because maybe there's a lot of traffic in front of your house, or maybe there's some construction going on. So you can say to the driver when you want to get out of the vehicle, you can let me off here. And just a side note, we covered let me off in part 1 and that let me off has a different meaning there. So if you haven't, please check out part 1 for more information. So in this final passage, we're saying we arrived at our friend's place and we pulled the car over to the side of the road so my friend could exit the vehicle. So we covered another bunch of useful expressions we use when driving or when we're a passenger in a vehicle. And even now, there's still a lot of useful driving expressions we weren't able to cover, and we will cover them in a future video. So if there are any driving related expressions you have questions on, please post them in the comments below. Great job today, and as always, I'll see you in the next video.